It's time again for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show covering fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation and destinations right here in the region you live and play in. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, makers of the world-famous wedding ring spinner, by Loophole, America's Optics Authority, and by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Northwestern Outdoors is also sponsored by Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon, where you'll find both nature and fun. By Chad's Coast White Sports Fishing, offering you the affordable Canadian fishing trip of a lifetime. And by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. So grab your fishing rod or hunting gear, load up the boat or lace up your boots, and let's head outdoors with your host, John Cruz.
Welcome to the show. We're going to start off with a rhetorical question. Are some protected animals more valuable than others? I posed this question after reading an article in the Spokesman Review about the southern Selkirk woodland caribou herd, which wanders the area bordering British Columbia, the Idaho Panhandle, and northeast Washington. This is an endangered species, and efforts to preserve this herd are not going well. As a matter of fact, the herd, which numbered 46 animals in 2009, is down to just 11 caribou today. What's the cause of their demise? Two of the usual suspects are loss of old-growth habitat and highway collisions. But it's the third issue that many environmental groups are mum about, and that would be predation. Specifically, predation by wolves. Authorities in British Columbia, where these caribou spend most of their time, have recognized this fact and killed 11 wolves last year in the area where these caribou roam to reduce the predator kill rate on these big ungulates. You would think environmental groups would support these efforts. After all, wolf numbers are on the rise and woodland caribou are about to go extinct. But you would be wrong, because this gets in the way of the mantra espoused by many pro-wolf environmental groups that wolves don't affect ungulate populations and are actually good for them by keeping the predator-prey populations in balance. This argument is valid in some places, but here, not so much. And that's why pro-wolf groups south of the Canadian border have largely remained quiet about this issue. That hasn't stopped some Canadian-based pro-wolf conservation groups, though, like Pacific Wild and Raincoast Conservation. They have been publicly protesting the culling of these wolves to save the caribou, which just makes me shake my head. What can I say? I don't know. Perhaps George Orwell said it best in his classic book, Animal Farm, when he wrote, "Some animals are more equal than others." This week on the show, Eric Winther will join us to preview the Northern Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery Program kicking off May 1st on the Columbia and Snake Rivers of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. This is a unique program where you actually get paid money to go fishing. Some people are making some serious cash doing this, and we'll tell you how you can too. Lance Mers is back to tell you about some great improvements they are making to their iconic Double D Dodger during an extended Max Minute. And then we'll go wildlife watching in the Panhandle of Idaho with Phil Cooper from the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, who has some great suggestions on where to go and what you'll see when you get there. After that, we'll check in with Chad Calder with Chad's Coast White Sports Fishing. He's got some last-minute June openings for salmon and halibut, and he'll give you his forecast about how he thinks the fishing's going to be this summer. After we talk to Chad, we'll share the coastal fishing news, both good and bad, for this summer, as well as news about a ban on a coyote killing trap used by the Department of Agriculture that is killing more than coyotes. But first, David Sparks has got some sad news to share about some bighorn sheep here in the Northwest. David is the host of Sportsman Spotlight, which is sponsored every week by Chad's Coast White Sports Fishing, offering affordable, all-inclusive saltwater fishing vacations out of Port Hardy, BC. Find out more at coastwidesportsfishing.com.
Bighorns down, David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Got a press release from Mike Demick, Idaho Fish and Game Information Supervisor, saying that 2 bighorns had to be euthanized after contacting domestic sheep.
Usually what happens is when we get reports of bighorn sheep that are commingling with domestic sheep, we will have to collect those sheep and try to determine if they transmitting the disease back and forth. Anytime those sheep commingle, we have to investigate in a timely manner. And what we try to do this time is we try to actually collect those sheep, dart them, and then put transmitters on them, collect a bunch of biological data from those sheep. But that didn't work this time. Basically, we tried several times to dart those sheep. We couldn't do it. So the decision was made to basically take out those sheep. We always hate when it happens. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, we take it very serious and we try to do it as quick as we can to hopefully prevent the transmission of those diseases from getting spread to other wild sheep.
This all happened in Challis, Idaho. This is David Sparks with Sportsman Spotlight.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, hard-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
At Loophole Optics, they guarantee performance. Those other optics companies, they just warranty failure. That's why every Loophole product has a lifetime guarantee. Think of it as a warranty you'll never need to cash in on. Find out more at loophole.com.
I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it. Gonna get up before the sun rise above us.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It is spring and it's time to think fishing, but not necessarily the fishing that you normally think of. We're going to tell you about catching northern pike minnow, and not only catching these fish, but making some money in the process. With us here to tell you more about it is Eric Winther. He's the project leader for the Columbia River Predator Control Program, and he works with the Northern Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery Program. Eric, great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, thanks, John. Glad to be here.
Eric, let's talk about the northern pike minnow and about this fishery. How does the program work? And I guess we'll start off with, where is this sport reward fishery program where anglers can make money? What are the boundaries? Where's it taking place at?
So the pike minnow reward program takes place on the Columbia River from the mouth all the way up to Priest Rapids Dam, which is just above the Tri-Cities. It's also in effect on the Snake River from the mouth all the way up to Hell's Canyon Dam. So those are the basic program boundaries. You can also fish the mouths of any of the tributaries within that area, 400 feet up from the mouth, and up to the boat-restricted zones at those two dams that are the endpoints for the program.
All right. So now that we have the boundaries, and it's always important, folks, when you're playing a game for the first time to know the boundaries, let's go ahead and talk about the rules. How does the Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery Program work?
Well, the season starts on May 1st, and so the basic idea is that folks go to one of our 19 check-in points. They sign up before they go fishing. Then they go catch pike minnow and typically would bring their fish back the following day. And each pike minnow that's 9 inches or bigger is worth a reward. It's kind of a sliding scale on the reward. It's $5 piece for the first 25. Then it jumps up to $6 a piece for number 26, up to 200, and then everything over 200 is at $8 a fish.
Wow. So here's a question for you. Let's say I'm going to go out and say I'm going to dedicate 5 days of pike minnow fishing. So every time I'm going to have to register at a check station every time. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. But what most people do is if they're fishing, especially if they're fishing consecutive days, is they sign up, they go fish, and then when they turn in their fish the following day, they can sign up again. So it's just one trip.
Gotcha. Here's the next question. When I turn in my fish the first day, and we'll say I've got 26 fish. So the first 25 are worth $5 a piece. That 26th one is worth $6. When I come back the next day, am I starting over at the $5 mark, or am I automatically at that $6 mark as the season progresses?
It's a cumulative total, John. So whether it takes you 1 day or 3 weeks or 2 months to get to those next levels, every fish after that is at the higher pay level.
And I think it's important to talk about not only can you catch these fish, as long as they're 9 inches or over, to earn this $5 to $8 per fish, you've got bonus fish that have tags in them that I understand are worth up to $500.
We do, and that's part of the biological evaluation of the program. We tag a number of these fish, and if anglers happen to catch one, yes, those are worth $500.
Well, it sounds like a great excuse to go fishing to me. Folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Eric Winter, and we're talking about the Northern Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery Program. Your opportunity to catch northern pike minnow out of the Columbia and Snake Rivers, turn them into a check station, get a voucher that's worth money, anywhere from $5 to $8 a fish, and maybe a tagged fish worth up to $500. Let's talk about why this is important. Why do you want people to catch these northern pike minnow and bring them into the check stations?
Well, there's a couple of misconceptions. Some folks think that this is a non-native fish that was introduced, and I guess I wanted to clarify that that's not the case. It's a native fish. They've always been here. It's just what happened is with the federal dams that were put into the Columbia and Snake River, they changed the habitat, made it a lot better, made the river a lot better for pike minnow and not so good for baby salmon and steelhead. And so what we're trying to do is we're just trying to prop their number down, because when that habitat changed, the pike minnow populations really grew, and they're a long-lived fish, and so they're just chomping the heck out of those juvenile salmon and steelhead. In fact, they're the main fish predator of baby salmon and steelhead in the Columbia and Snake River. So that's kind of the whole basic background behind our program.
And I think it's important to note, what a lot of people think of this as a bounty program, but when you think bounty, you think extermination. And that's not what we're trying to do here. You're not trying to exterminate the northern pike minnow, formerly known as the squawfish. You're just trying to keep the numbers to a manageable level, aren't you?
Exactly. And to be more specific, we're trying to get between 10 and 20% of the population every year.
All right. Well, there you go. That's exactly how it works. And let's talk about how much money can be made here, because I looked on your website at the top 20 anglers, and oh my gosh, the top angler made how much last year?
Our top angler, that was a record-setting year. The fellow had a little over 14,000 fish, and that was worth $119,340
And the season starts May 1st. How long does it go?
Runs through the end of September.
So in just a few months, he made probably twice as much as a lot of our listeners make an entire year. That is amazing. Let's go all the way down to the 20th angler. Even he made a good chunk of change.
He did. Our number 20 angler had 2,274 fish, and he earned a little over $18,000. And so that's not bad for 5 months of fishing.
I'd call that a great summer job, personally. So there you go, folks. There's some good money to be made if you really want to be serious about it. But even if you're just a casual angler, want to go ahead and do this for maybe a couple of days this summer, I mean, you can go ahead and pay for your gas money, have some fun, and try something new, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. It's typically our peak season is about the last week of June. With the high water this year, it's looking like it might be a week or two later than that. So if you can get out somewhere between now and then, the fishing's just going to get better and better, and you can keep track of that on the Pike Minnow website. Once our season starts, we'll put the weekly catch totals up there so you can kind of get an idea how good the fishing is at all the different locations.
Well, we are going to have you on the air again really soon to talk about A, where the fishing is good, and B, how to catch these northern pike minnow, because it's not as easy as you might think, folks. But in the meantime, let's steer folks to the website so they can find out more about the program and get some of these tips in advance on how to catch these fish.
Yes, we are at pikeminnow.org. So that's one word, PIKEMINNOW.org.
That's pikeminnow.org, pikeminnow.org for the Northern Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery Program. Your chance to go fishing in Idaho, in Washington, in Oregon, on the Snake and Columbia rivers, and make a little money in the process. Again, it's pikeminnow.org. Check out the website, get your fishing gear ready, get ready to make some money this spring and summer. Eric, thanks for telling us about this week on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks a lot, John.
You're gonna love it. Gonna get up before the sun rise above us. Got a bamboo pole and a leaky boat. It ain't much, but if you bail, it'll float. I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it.
Want to go fishing and make money? You are in luck. This year's Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery kicks off May 1st. Just register at a check station and go fishing for 9-inch or longer northern pike minnow within designated waters of the Columbia or Snake River. Then you bring your fish back and collect a voucher good for a cash reward. The more fish you catch, the more they're worth. $5, $6, and $8 per fish. Catch a pike minnow with a special tag and you've landed $500. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter and has the quality gear you need for hunting, fishing, camping, and more. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff will help you find the right product so you get the most out of your time in the field or on the water. In addition to stocking superior clothing and outdoor equipment, we offer in-store events and seminars so you can enjoy a successful adventure. With over 70 stores located in the United States, it's easy to find a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you. Find out more at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. To join us, go to pheasantsforever.org.
You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's that time again. That's right. It's time for another Max Minute, brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. And with us, yet again, is our friend Lance Mers. Lance, the Double D Dodger. It's been a mainstay for Max Lure for well over a decade, and I understand there's been some recent changes to this great Dodger.
We've got some new colors, John, and the new colors are UV Glow, also known as Moon Jelly, Lemon Lime, Copper, and Purple.
Why the changes?
We need a variety of Dodgers and colors. You know, depending upon how deep you're fishing, you got to change those colors to match the UV sensitivity in the water column.
And I know when it comes to copper, if you're not fishing very deep, if you've got chrome, that doesn't work really good on clear water and sunny days. It's too much flash, but that copper kind of tones it down, gives out the flash, but still attracts the bite.
And it also looks orange under a UV light, so it's absolutely perfect for trout and kokanee.
There you go, folks. It's the Double D Dodger, new and improved with lots of new colors. Look for it at a sporting goods store near you, or, of course, at maxlure.com. The Sling Blade is Max Lure Company's latest Dodger for you to use. Lance Mers is with us from Max Lure Company to tell you more about it. Why are you so excited about the Sling Blade?
Versatility, John. You can bend the Sling Blade and change it from a reactionary bite to a normal bite, and it's got so many possibilities.
Not only that, it comes in different sizes. You can use the Sling Blade for everything from trout and kokanee all the way to ocean-going salmon. It's the Sling Blade. Look for it at maxlure.com.
Tired of the same old fishing hole? Then head to Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Enjoy a weekend on the glacial waters of Wallowa Lake, where you can troll for the deep water excitement of kokanee or cast your line for some trout fishing fun. Bring your float tube or canoe and enjoy fishing in some of Wallowa County's small lakes. Or don your waders and step into the clear waters of the Wallowa, Imnaha, or Grand Ronde rivers. Early to bed, early to rise, fish all day, and there'll be no need for lies when you fish the waters of Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Visit us online at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
This is the time of year to get out and cook out. So make your next meal sizzle with Camp Chef, the brand known for quality outdoor cooking. From camp stoves to cast iron, from smokers to grills, Camp Chef will change the way you cook outdoors. To eat like a king on your next adventure, go to campchef.com or visit your local sporting goods store and get cooking. Whether you're serving breakfast in the backcountry or barbecue on the back patio, savor the simplicity with Camp Chef. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Want to go fishing and make money? You are in luck. This year's Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery kicks off May 1st. Just register at a check station and go fishing for 9-inch or longer northern pike minnow within designated waters of the Columbia or Snake River. Then you bring your fish back and collect a voucher good for a cash reward. The more fish you catch, the more they're worth. $5, $6, and $8 per fish. Catch a pike minnow with a special tag and you've landed $500. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and it's that time of year that you ought to be heading to wildlife areas near you for some fantastic wildlife watching. If you like bird watching, this is definitely the best time of year because all those birds are in their spring plumage. They are brightly colored. They're trying to attract mates. In some cases, they've already found them, and they're very busy with their mates, making lots of noise and flying about. In other cases, they're on the nests, and in other cases, the first fledglings are coming out and making their way into the world. Also fun to see. Mammals, too, are very visible this time of year, and we thought we'd take you to the Idaho Panhandle to tell you about some of the great opportunities up there. With us here to tell you more about it is Phil Cooper with Idaho Department of Fish and Game. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
So, Phil, let's run through a few of the wildlife management areas and opportunities that await in the Panhandle of northern Idaho. And I guess we'll start off with the Coeur d'Alene River Wildlife Management Area. Where's that located, and what are folks going to see there?
Sure, John. The Coeur d'Alene Wildlife Management Area extends from the mouth of the Coeur d'Alene River at Harrison and then goes upstream to the Cataldo area, which is about a 25-mile-long stretch. There's over 50 pairs of osprey that nest on the lower Coeur d'Alene River, and then another 30 osprey that nest near the mouth of the St. Joe. So osprey are now back, and this is a fantastic time of year to go watch osprey. They're feeding heavily and starting to nest, and so it's a great opportunity to see osprey. Other non-game birds that we have along the wildlife management area include great blue herons, red-tailed hawk, northern harriers. There's a lot of kestrels, and then we have shorebirds. There's rails and other shorebirds that you can see along the river as well.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Phil. I'm a raptor junkie. I love watching hawks. I love watching falcons, and I especially love osprey. I could sit all day and watch them hover, watch them dive in the water, and see what, if anything, they come out with. I wish I could be half as good of an angler as an osprey is. Let's talk about another wildlife area, and that'd be way, way north, right by the Canadian border, the Boundary Smith Creek Wildlife Management Area. Where's that at exactly? And I understand there's some mammals to see there.
Yeah, that's a fantastic area to go, especially this time of year. It's right on the Canadian border. In fact, there's a small stream that runs on the northern edge of the wildlife management area, and the other side of the creek is Canada. And so you don't want to go across there or you will attract some attention. But it is a great place to go. It's west of Bonners Ferry. You go to Bonners Ferry and then head over toward Copeland and take the west side road. It's right smack on the border. We have two WMAs that are now connected, Boundary Creek and Smith Creek. They were previously separate. We acquired them separately, but it's a great place to go to see muskrat, beaver, otter, and mink. And then in the springtime, you might even see a grizzly bear. They go out in those big meadows there, and they do a lot of digging for small rodents.
Wow.
And you'll even see grizzlies in the fall because a lot of the old homesteads there had apple trees, and those apple trees are still producing, and so those grizzlies do come back in the fall to feed on those apples. Lots of deer, a lot of moose. It's really a fantastic place to go and look at wildlife.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. I've always wanted to see a grizzly from a distance. From a distance. But moose, too. I mean, moose is a real treat for a lot of our listeners. I mean, yes, they're pretty common in Idaho, Montana, certain parts of Wyoming. But for a lot of folks, especially in Oregon and Washington, that's a very uncommon sight to see. And they're so ungainly, but they're really cool animals to watch, aren't they?
There sure are, and you'll see them a lot of times on the WMA because it is a wetland primarily, and so there are a lot of places where they'll stand out there where they're belly deep, and they'll stick their heads completely underwater, and it's really fascinating to watch them come up, and all the water is dripping off of them. One other thing that we do have there that's kind of unusual is painted turtles.
Oh, okay.
And in the springtime, they will be laying their eggs in the gravel along the edge of the road. And so if you do go up there in the springtime on the northernmost edge of the WMA, the road will be practically covered with turtles. It's hard to drive and not drive around and try to avoid running into those turtles. And they lay their eggs in that gravel, and they go back to the water, and the sun warms that gravel and incubates the eggs, and so that's what they're trying to do, is find a sunny place to put those eggs.
You know, it's funny you say that. So number one, folks, there's your traffic advisory for the day. Is watch out for the turtles at the Boundary Creek and Smith Creek Wildlife Management Area. But I had a similar experience. I was down near French Glen in southeastern Oregon. I was driving to the Heart Mountain National Antelope Refuge. And there's this gravel road that goes like 50 miles to get there. And as I'm driving along, I started seeing all these eggs on the gravel. And I thought to myself, an egg truck must have been in the middle of nowhere and spilled their eggs onto the gravel. And some were broken, but most were not. And eventually I realized that the ravens in the area, because I started seeing all these ravens picking up, and the ravens had laid these eggs, and they were doing the exact same thing that you were describing. They were using the heat of the sun on the gravel to basically incubate the eggs. It was fascinating to see that.
Yes, it sure is. And the turtles are really fascinating to watch, too. You can pull off the side of the road, or actually, if there's no traffic, sit in the road and just watch them. And right there, they're not disturbed by people, and they'll excavate some of the gravel and deposit eggs right there, and it's pretty interesting to watch.
Absolutely. Folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and we're talking with Phil Cooper. He's with Idaho Department of Fish and Game about wildlife watching opportunities in Idaho's Panhandle. Phil, we've got a bunch of listeners in St. Mary's, and I understand there's a wildlife management area down there as well. What are folks going to see there? I know there's fishing down there, but is there wildlife to see in that area as well?
Yeah, actually, we just completed a transaction with the Idaho Department of Lands where we traded a piece of that WMA, a fairly large piece of it, that is a popular big game hunting area, for some riverfront property that we are now going to manage. So that the St. Mary's WMA in name will not exist anymore because it'll be managed by the Department of Lands, but we do have a perpetual easement there for hunters to be able to get on there and use it for big game hunting. And so what we did in the process of doing that was we picked up some parcels that are now part of the Coeur d'Alene River WMA, and they are riverfront pieces that we can manage primarily for waterfowl habitat and production. And yet we still have the big game management on the St. Mary's WMA, but the Department of Lands is now the owner. But it won't be managed any differently. There may be some timber harvest in there, but that will certainly benefit big game. So the St. Mary's area that has been our WMA is primarily for big game habitat and big game hunting opportunity and big game access to hunters.
All right. We are running short on time, but folks, a couple of tips in terms of ethical wildlife viewing before we go. Number one, believe it or not, some of the best wildlife viewing is going to be from your car. If you have a spotting scope, if you have binoculars, you're going to find a lot of the animals, especially if you're in these wildlife management areas on the gravel roads, they will not be spooked by your vehicle at all. The moment you get out of that car, they're going to get spooked in a hurry. The other thing, don't approach the wildlife. Again, a lot of them are nesting at this time of year, or they might have young fledglings with them, or young fawns or other animals, so you don't want to disturb them. If you come across quote-unquote orphaned wildlife, it's not orphaned. Leave it alone. I guarantee you the mother is close by, so keep your distance, be respectful, enjoy everything that's out there in the Idaho Panhandle and here in the Northwest. Phil, thanks for taking the time to tell us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX Mackenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your Mackenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX Mackenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
Tired of the noise, the hustle and bustle of the city? Then find your solitude in the lands of Wallowa County. Bring your camping gear and hike into the Eagle Cap Wilderness. Explore the Zumwalt Prairie. Rise with the sun on the Wallowas and hear the early morning stirring of the wildlife. Smell the fresh coffee, the sizzling bacon, and the crackle of the fire. This is the good life, and it's waiting for you in Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Come and enjoy one of Oregon's 7 wonders, and you'll wonder why you haven't been here before. Your getaway starts at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time to check in with our friend Chad Calder. He is the owner of Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, located in Port Hardy, BC. And this is the time of year we need to try to figure out how good the fishing's going to be this summer. Chad, great to have you back on the show.
Oh, it's always good to talk to you, John. It's great to be back.
Well, Chad, I can't wait to go fishing with you again this summer. When I went last June with my family, it was far and away the best saltwater fishing trip I'd ever had in my life. And I've got to ask, how are things looking this year? What's the official forecast from the government?
Well, John, it's interesting this year. Last year there was this big sort of announcement of world, biggest runs in of the century, et cetera, et cetera. And in a lot of ways, it didn't materialize like that. And I think that they're a little bit more reluctant to put anything out like that this year. But what I can tell you is I was just recently up in Port Hardy getting sort of set up for our season to open here in June. And the early forecasts from our local standpoint are fantastic. And one thing that's really, really intriguing me is my early June fishery to the end of June fishery, which has always been sort of an understated fishery for us, is looking really promising, which is fantastic. It's always been the one fishery that I like the most, and I'm happy to say that it's looking like it's going to be a really good season.
Well, I know last year when we came up, it was around June 25th or so, and I still remember one epic morning where my daughter and I were out there, and we literally, folks, we hooked 10 Chinook salmon in the space of an hour and a half. Didn't get them all in. I mean, there was a bunch of them throwing hooks, but it was a fantastic morning, and the only thing that was better than that was all the other fish we caught immediately afterwards, in terms of halibut, in terms of lingcod, in terms of rockfish. It was an epic morning. The whales were breaching nearby. It just was about the most perfect BC fishing experience you could have, and that was a June fishery. Got to ask you, Chad, do you have some openings for this June or not? Because I know you're usually pretty full.
We have a few. We expanded to another boat this year, just through sheer demand. So we do have a little bit of room in June left, and that's good. July is very close to sold out, and August as well this year. So it's looking to be an extremely promising year. You hit the nail on the head on when you just mentioned that June fishery when you were up there last year, John, is the one thing that's certainly not unique to us, but one thing that keeps people coming back is the fact that, all our fishing is done within a relatively close proximity to each other. So we salmon fish for just a few hours, and then we're immediately halibut fishing, and then we're just a short run to get all our yellow eye, red snapper, and lingcod and rockfish, etc. So there's not a lot of running around in between your fisheries where we are. So that's the one real nice thing about Port Hardy.
Well, that's one of the nice things about Port Hardy, folks. The great thing about Chad's operation is that it's all-inclusive. You get yourself up there. He's going to put you up in a nice hotel right at the marina. You just walk out the door, take a few steps to the marina. You hop on one of his Grady White boats, very comfortable boats. They do fantastic in these semi-protected ocean conditions out there, and you're going to be fishing, and you're going to be catching every day. You'll be fishing for salmon. You'll be fishing for halibut. You'll be fishing for bottom fish like rock rockfish or yellow eye or lingcod, and it's just an epic experience. And better still, when you get back, you take your photos, they take your catch, they're going to go ahead and process it for you. When you're ready to head home, it's all in the coolers, ready to go through customs. It is easy, schmeezy. It's just a great experience. And oh yes, meals are taken care of too. It doesn't get any easier. Got to ask before we go here, the exchange rate. Last year it was in our favor. How's it looking right now?
It's pretty much the same, John. It's staggering to me to think that our U.S. clients can save between 30 and 35% on the exchange rate. So it's an incredibly affordable fishing trip, and I don't see that dollar amount changing here within the next little while either. It's going to stay pretty similar to what it is right now. So it's been fabulous for us. I mean, it's allowed us to expand a little bit this year, and we're very fortunate. We have all our returning guides year after year, so we're happy.
And I'm very fortunate that I get to go fishing with you again this summer. And folks, you've got a chance to do so too, especially during this June fishery that's looking to be really good this year, just like it was for us last year. You can find out more by going to coastwidesportsfishing.com. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com. The prices you're going to see are in Canadian dollars. So just go ahead and basically subtract about 30 to 35% off that, and you're going to find that you're going to have an all-inclusive fishing vacation that's going to be every bit as good as an Alaska vacation for about half the price, and you'll be coming home with a whole bunch of fish too. The website, one more time, coastwidesportsfishing.com. That's Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing. Chad, thanks for taking the time to give us this preview of what things are looking like this summer.
Oh, absolutely. It's been fantastic. And thanks a lot for having us again on the program. We're really fortunate to have you.
Continuing with salmon fishing forecasts. From the Northwest Sport Fishing Association, we've got bad news for salmon and anglers in southern Oregon and northern California, where 200 miles of the west coast is closed to salmon fishing. Years of drought conditions have had a horrible effect on the already impacted salmon runs of the Klamath River system, with a very low run of less than 12,000 Chinook salmon expected to return to the Klamath. The fisheries managers at the Pacific Fishery Management Council made the decision last week to enact a total closure of ocean salmon fishing along 200 miles of the Pacific coast in northern California and southern Oregon. The specific area is from Humbug Mountain south of Port Orford, Oregon, to Horse Mountain in Northern California. In other salmon season updates from the Pacific Fisheries Management Council meeting on April 11th, you'll find the ocean waters off the Columbia River will be open from June 24th through September 4th or earlier because there's a quota with a hatchery mark selective coho rate of 21,000 and Chinook 13,200. The daily bag limit will be 2 salmon, but no more than 1 Chinook, and all coho must have an adipose fin clip. Recreational seasons on the central Oregon coast from Cape Falcon to Humbug Mountain will continue through October 31st without interruption. Coho seasons will have reduced quotas in the hatchery mark selective season from June 24th through July 31st. And there's going to be an additional season that'll open September 2nd and continue through September 30th, or when a quota of 6,000 coho are caught. And again, the area from Humbug Mountain to the Oregon-California border will be closed to all recreational salmon fishing in 2017. A limited state waters fishery off the Chetco River in October is being considered by the Oregon Fish and Wildlife Commission this weekend. And getting back to conservation issues, we learned from multiple media sources, to include the Capitol Press, that the U.S. Department of Agriculture is banning the use of their controversial M44 cyanide traps after several high-profile incidents in the Northwest. These traps are baited with meat and are meant to kill coyotes with cyanide that shoots from them into the mouths of the animals when they go after the bait. The Department of Agriculture puts the traps in areas where coyotes are preying on livestock. The problems have come in the form of unintended consequences in 3 different states. In February, a state-protected wolf in Wallowa County, Oregon, was killed after taking the bait from one of these traps, and 2 pet dogs were killed in Natrona County, Wyoming, on private property in an incident where the Department of Agriculture said they didn't place these traps. The worst case, though, occurred last month in eastern Idaho, when a boy was going for a walk with his Labrador Retriever near his home. The dog stumbled into the trap, found the bait, and when the trap went off, the dog was killed and the boy was injured. This last case was the final straw. It led to the Department of Agriculture issuing a temporary ban, and they say they are no longer using these devices in Idaho, and they're also not using them in an area where wolves are present in Wallowa County, Oregon. Stick around. In just a couple minutes, we'll tell you about some very interesting upcoming events taking place in the Northwest, and we'll give you your Sportsman's Warehouse trivia question of the week.
Quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
At Loophole Optics, they guarantee performance. Those other optics companies, they just warranty failure. That's why every Loophole product has a lifetime guarantee. Think of it as a warranty you'll never need to cash in on. Find out more at loophole.com.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter and has the quality gear you need for hunting, fishing, camping, and more. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff will help you find the right product so you get the most out of your time in the field or on the water. In addition to stocking superior clothing and outdoor equipment, we offer in-store events and seminars so you can enjoy a successful adventure. With over 70 stores located in the United States, it's easy to find a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you. Find out more at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. To join us, go to pheasantsforever.org.
One more time this week for Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
As promised, we've got some upcoming events for you. Another reminder that this is a fee-free weekend to visit our national parks, and Saturday the 22nd is also a fee-free day to visit Washington State Parks. That's right, no entry fees required. So, if that's what's holding you back from one of these great places, go visit a park near you today. This weekend is also a free fishing weekend in Oregon State. Not only can you go fishing where it's legal to do so without paying for a license, you can go clamming and crabbing too. Now that is a great deal. And if you live close to Oregon in either Washington, Idaho, or California, this would be a great weekend to cross the border and enjoy some free fishing too without paying for that out-of-state license. Speaking of fishing, today is the most popular fishing day of the year in Washington. That's because it's the Lowland Lakes opener, and anglers are schooling to hundreds of lakes in the Evergreen State for a chance to catch some of the 16 million fish stocked in these lakes for anglers. And if you catch a tagged fish, it's probably worth a gift card or gift certificate courtesy of the WDFW Fishing Derby going on through October 31st. So call it in, validate your tag, and get a prize you can use at a business near the lake where you're fishing. Another event, if you're into gold prospecting, well, you'll likely learn some tips at the Golden Treasure Show, taking place this weekend at the Chelan County Fairgrounds in Cashmere, Washington. You can learn about gold panning, using metal detectors, and more. I might actually go to this one. And if you have ever been interested in becoming an outdoors writer, blogger, photographer, or broadcaster, the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association is having their annual conference this coming Friday the 28th through Sunday the 30th in Sandpoint, Idaho. There's still time to join this great organization and attend too for a very reasonable price. I've been a member of NOAA for over 10 years now and have come to love this organization and the people that are a part of it. They would love to have you join too. Find out more by Googling Northwest Outdoor Writers Association on the web or on Facebook. And now it's time for your trivia question of the week. This week's question comes to us courtesy of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, where we ask you about those tiny little burrowing owls who, as the name implies, burrow into tunnels where they make their home. When these owls, especially the juvenile ones, feel threatened, they make a certain sound to scare away predators. Here's your question. Do they A, hoot like a great horned owl, B, screech like a hawk, or C, hiss and make a sound similar to a rattlesnake? If you think you know, and this is not an easy one, folks, go to our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio and give us your answer there. Or if you prefer, go to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. Go to the Contact Us page, and you can give us your answer there as well. While you're on the web, be sure to listen to our show and our sister show, America Outdoors Radio, on WRVO Radio. It's an internet site dedicated to outdoors programming. You'll find that website at renoviolaoutdoors.com. We've got to go, but as you heard, there's a lot of opportunities for fishing out there this week, and I hope you'll pick up your fishing pole and take advantage of some of them. Until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.